the other day that Joe was talking about. Right after that, you'll see a bounce effect on the other side of the sun, and a flare will shoot off of that. It rings like a bell inside there. I think we're going to see a lot more solar flares in this solar cycle peak, and I think we may have two peaks, one occurring now, and it'll back off a bit between now and the end of the year and into 2014, and peak again between 14 and 15. Now, I'm not just guessing at this. The solar physicists have been observing this, have said that they think the same thing will happen because we didn't reach the peak that we thought we would, which the equations predict. And you can, by the way, predict solar maximums and stuff by variations in the Earth's magnetic field itself, which is intimately connected to the solar wind and hence the magnetic field of the sun. The situation on the sun is very similar to something I think that's happening to the Earth itself, which I can talk about in a minute. But the sun is like all gravitational bodies, whether it be a galaxy or another star system, a planet, an atom. They spin, and because they spin in the fluid of space, space is not totally empty. It is a fluid of very fine particles, so fine that we can't measure them with our bulky equipment and stuff that we try to do it with. But it's called the Dirac Sea or the ether space. A number of names have been given to it over the years. But this fluid spins and creates compression in the center of the spin, which forms, a ball shape. And when that fluid starts to slow down, as it does, things age and they slow down and throw off energy. Our sun is doing that. Now, probably 25 years ago, the Russians said that they had calculated that half of the hydrogen fuel that runs the sun at the moment was burned up, and that we were looking that it could change the nuclear chemistry to a helium reaction instead of a hydrogen one. Well, what happens in between that change or during the change? Nobody knows. They still don't. But we do think that what's going to happen is the surface of the sun is going to, at some point, get a lot of coronal holes and sunspots, in essence, all over the surface of it. And it will appear to cool, but it'll be emitting great amounts of energy through these holes. At the same time, within weeks or months of this, we think that it will start boiling off debris off of the sun in a solar wind that forms a cloud around the sun. And that will occlude or hide the sun's light to a degree. It'll soften it like going through a big dust cloud. And I think all this is going to be happening in the next, 2 or 3 years, maybe 7 or 8 years at the most. But it will be happening as the sun changes its state.
That's very interesting. And you talked about the potential dust-like covering over the sun, kind of hindering some of its light. Would you be able to guess about what percentage of sunlight would get through, or how big of an effect this would have? Would we even notice it on Earth, or would it be, and then the duration of it, would this be something that could kill crops or change the jet stream, change the Earth system?
It will affect Earth and all the planets in our systems one way or another. The cloud, I think, will be a very short duration thing, maybe days, maybe a couple weeks. It'll be so severe, though, that we will notice it. The cloud will probably blow off the sun and come toward us if we're not engulfed in it at the same time, because of charge ratios and particles being thrown off the sun, that kind of stuff. We'll see it here on the Earth as a darkening of the sun itself during the daytime, and the darkening at night because of this dust, this cloud, will make the moon's light dial way down until it's kind of blood red color, which is in keeping with the prophecies in the book of the Revelation, that the moon turns to blood, which I assume means the color red. But attending this same thing or preceding it may be the sun brightening very quickly into the ultraviolet range for a couple of weeks. Now, the ultraviolet can cause cancer in certain spectra, but not all ultraviolet will cause cancer. But the ultraviolet that's coming off the sun may increase 6 times, 7 times what it is now. If it were the infrared or the heat radiation coming off the sun, it would destroy life on the planet, destroy everything. I mean, if you imagine it's 100 degrees Fahrenheit during a hot day in the summer somewhere, and make that 700 degrees Fahrenheit even for a day, you'd all be dead and everything would be fried. So it's not that. the Bible does speak of a time in the Revelation where it will be, the sun's light will be as the light of 7 times what it is now, 7 days. If that were the heat radiation, as I said, it would hurt us. It would kill us. But there will be some increase of temperature on the planet when this ultraviolet light increases, and it'll be toward the bright white, blue-white light, which people are seeing in the sun now. And not even with telescopes. I mean, they're just seeing it with the naked eye. The increase in temperature that does attend that will be much less, but it will be enough to kill trees and grass and fish and boil rivers and that kind of stuff. Again, all keeping with prophecies in the book of the Revelation of John, Revelation 2 John. The situation with the Hopi Indians when we were down there, they know from their prophecy keepers that the sun is going to get very hot, but that they can endure it by going underground into their mud kivas, like little igloos underground, that they've already been preparing and putting dried beans and corn and water and stuff down in there to stay for a couple of weeks. So they're putting a time frame on it for the same kind of thing that we're talking about in the prophecies of the Bible. This does tell me in this solar cycle, this grand solar cycle, that this may be the time. I don't know of any other time we've ever had such a situation where we've had such activity in the magnetic field and hence the flares and CMEs on the sun. Just today, they've made announcements over in Europe and here in the United States, scientific community has, about a new discovery they've made with the supercomputers that the sun has shear waves, like shearing waves inside of it, underneath the surface of it. And they think that these shearing waves are what are creating these anomalous magnetic field lines that come up with a solar flare and then break and recombine and stuff. And it's been a mystery. Couldn't figure out how that fit into the equation of the sun. And in my theory of gravity, which I'm still developing the paper on, and in fact, you can see animations and pictures of that on our website, standeyo.com. Go there and scroll down the page where you see the microphone on the left. That tells you that you're in the place where I'm doing a live show at the moment. And over on the right, you'll see show images in blue. Click on that and get over to the thing that has pictures of looks like cutaway of a solar system or a planet. And dive into there and you'll see some things I'm talking about. But anyway, this gravitational field of the sun, like all gravitational fields, is created by spin in this invisible fluid of space. And as the star, in this case, ages, it starts to expand and pull apart the surface, just make it thinner as it's covering a greater surface area. I think we will see the increase in the sunspots, which are holes in the chromosphere there of the sun. I think we'll see a greater increase of that in the next 12 to 15 months. Could be wrong. It's a guesstimate, and like all these guys guessing about it, that's what I'm doing. The magnetic fields are created at the same time the gravitational fields are by this kind of, I'll do it on the camera where the spinning field spins up to the polar regions and dives down inside and makes a shear wave go at angles to the surface wave, creating the outward sphere that we see of a star or a planet. And I think that they've just now discovered what I've been working on for some time. They're trying to explain what they call the flux freezing theorem and the complex field dynamics of the magnetic field of the sun. But they all say that it's something to do now with a shear wave, which just aligns perfectly what I've been telling people about what causes gravity.
Very interesting.
Got anything on that? I'm just trying to see here.
Oh, you covered so much there, Mr. Deyo. We could really talk about that.
If I can ask, did you say X-class flares, M-class flares?
X-class flares are the biggest ones.
45.
Okay, so we are talking about X-class flares, right?
Right.
Correct?
Right.
Wow.
They're not tiny things.
No. Okay. I just wanted to be clear in my mind. I can barely understand the science behind it, the mechanics behind it, but I do know that this is a bad thing. So how is this going to affect the average person, obviously? One thing I can think of is, and I when I was younger, of course, you like to go out and get some sun and play on the beach. I mean, we're going to see an increase in skin cancer. You're going to see, I mean, just the effects of this are just going to be tremendous. Am I wrong, or is this
No,
something? I mean, the things that you don't normally think about, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
you don't. And think about this. If the sun does get hotter, say by 60, 70, maybe even 80 degrees hotter, you will have to go underground or in your basements or caves or something and try to survive. Now, at a certain temperature out there, the black tar roads that we have all over the country, the older roads, will melt, and car tires will overheat and expand and explode. These are some of the things that we've addressed or thought about here in the past. Depending on how high that temperature gets, you could get bogged down in hot tar trying to get out of your car when it's stuck in that tar and the wheels have exploded. It's going to be rather dangerous because you're going to be stepping into hot tar, tarred and feathered without the feathers. So that's one effect that could happen during this peak when it really gets hot. The ultraviolet, there's only a certain bandwidth, as far as we know, of the ultraviolet spectrum that does create cancer in our skin cells. The other problem that happens is that the newer ultraviolet frequencies that are coming out of the sun are being absorbed by life on the planet, particularly very tiny life in the sea, in things that are like plankton and small krill and things like that. They're absorbing that frequency range. There's two main frequencies that they use, and they're multiplying, and just living creates more heat in the oceans. So that is increasing to the heat signature of the planet simply because more things are absorbing the newer wavelengths of ultraviolet and converting it to heat, down converting it to infrared. With the food chain interrupted, it's going to be hard.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the U.S. drought monitor here, and the United States, especially this southern Midwest to Southwest, is experiencing a D4 exceptional long-term drought. And we see, as you said, the sun seems to be getting brighter, and we've talked about this in past shows, and a lot of people talk about this, that the sun is getting brighter. Before 30 years ago, they could look at it and it would be yellowish. Today, it's so bright white that you can't even look into the sun. You talked about the waves of that the sun is bringing, the solar waves. Are there talks of different types of unknown particles that they're seeing now from the sun's waves and flares, these charged particles? Or
I don't know. Have you read something about that? I didn't hear about that.
Honestly, I left I have a note card with a specific question written down, and I didn't have it with me. But no, there was something that came to my attention about the charged particles and how many, it was either extra particles being able to come through our magnetosphere or our atmosphere, and the effects that would have on us. But either way, solar flares, do they have a correlation with earthquakes?
That's an interesting question, one that could be debated, I'm sure. The solar wind is like a Catherine wheel, spiraling arms comes out, and we pass through more dense and less dense parts of it all the time as we orbit the sun. Now, the solar wind is primarily usually made of protons, positive charged particles, and they hit our magnetopause and our magnetic field, in essence, of the planet, and impart energy to the planet by the impacts into our magnetic field. Should the sun start putting out more of these, more energetic, then yes, it could affect our magnetic field and hence us. The solar wind is an extraordinary thing, how it intimately connects our magnetic field to the sun. Right now, the sun is approaching the middle of its haomagnetic cycle, which is a 11-year cycle for one pole to shift to the other end of the other side of the sun, and then another 11 years, and they right themselves to where they were before. Now, that haomagnetic cycle is a normal thing that attends a 22-year cycle of operation. If the Earth's magnetic field, as I've said before, if the Earth's magnetic field is weakening, which it is, this is not, rocket science, then there is a point in time where the change in the north-south alignment of the magnetic field of the sun through the solar wind could connect to our magnetic field on Earth and flip-flop it and flip our magnetic poles. Now, it's interesting. NASA has on their site photographs of computer modeling of what would happen if the Earth was to shift its north and south magnetic poles, if it was to flip and reverse them. During that reversal process, which might take days, months, or years, or centuries, according to what they're saying, the planet would have three sets of magnetic poles: the main north-south and two mini poles, north-south, north-south, spaced somewhere along the planet, due to the turbulence of the conductive fluid inside the Earth, the core, as it spins and changes its magnetic field. All this is just tightly linked with the solar wind and the magnetic field of the sun. You know, I think that we're going to see some unusual things. Whether it's new particles or not, I don't know. But because our magnetosphere is weakening, and our magnetic field is weakening as it changes, it's not going to go to zero, but it'll weaken a great deal as it flips around. We're going to see more particles, more radiation as well, get through our magnetosphere and hit the surface of the planet. And this is not a good thing. We have an area of the planet on our atmosphere that is called the South Atlantic Anomaly right now, and it's thin. And a lot of radiation from space, you know, cosmic radiation, and from the sun, solar radiation, these waves get through that hole. That's why we don't fly through that. We don't send our astronauts through that. We don't put the space station through that area of the planet if we can help it, because it's such a weak shield. Just like in Star Trek, the shields are weak in that area, and therefore we're vulnerable underneath it. And people that have been under that, when it's thinned out a bit in the ocean there, and up north of there in the islands on the east coast of South America, people have felt the ultraviolet increase as pinpricks all over their skin while they're out in the sun, and nausea and disorientation and diarrhea and stuff struck them just from the radiation getting through the hole, and they were on the fringe of it, the very fringe. There's going to be a lot of problems with it.
Now, Stan, the Bermuda Triangle, does this have any relationship to the Bermuda Triangle, what you're talking about, the South Atlantic anomaly?
Well, I don't know. The South Atlantic anomaly is in a different ocean. Obviously, it's on the other side of South America, but and down to the South Atlantic, whereas the Bermuda Triangle is in the North Atlantic on above the equator. And there's another one like an area like the Bermuda Triangle over in Japan, in the Pacific side. And there have been several others reported, dead zones or areas in the ocean where they were, you know, like the Devil's Triangle or Bermuda Triangle. I have tried to plot that out and try to figure out why we would have something like the Bermuda Triangle occurring as a function of gravity or magnetism or whatever. Trying to be more pragmatic rather than saying it's a portal to some parallel dimension or any of that stuff. Just going on the facts that we do accept in the scientific community. And I can't explain it. The Bermuda Triangle is definitely weird. It may be a huge area that has a lot of methane hydrates on the seafloor, and because the Earth is warming underneath there are periodic releases of methane gas, which would cause boats to sink. They can't stay floating in methane gas impregnated water. Their buoyancy is lost and they sink. It doesn't exactly explain what happens to aircraft flying over the area, you know, like the Avenger Squadron in 1947, whatever it was, flight thingo, that disappeared when their magnetic compasses. They had two of them on board the aircraft, both failed, and that was the lead aircraft, and the rest of the squadron were following him, and theirs failed. And then the rescue craft goes out after them, and 8 hours later, it, with 11 crew or so, disappears as well. It doesn't explain how methane gas or methane hydrate gas getting up into the air would screw up their magnetic fields and disorient them and make them fall to the sea. But yet they've never found any evidence of where these guys went on their planes.
That was going to be my next question, Stan. I remember
Flight 19, wasn't it? Something like that.
Yeah, they never found they never found them. Period. Correct.
Right.
That's just really bizarre. You know,
the reason I brought the Bermuda Triangles up, Stan, is because there's a friend of the show, a listener. We've been talking about this, and we've been looking into Lucis Trust, and they have their one world religion, and one of the parts of their one world religion includes triangles, and Now you think of the Trilateral Commission and the people that were involved with that, and the Lucis Trust aspect, and how they. I'm not sure how familiar you are with Lucis Trust and
Yep.
what they
Yep.
preach, but we believe that there was some correlation or something that brought this all together. That there was a reason for these triangles. Not that they are portals, but they are important to the underworld or dark side for some particular reason. That's why I wanted to ask that question, and I thank you for answering.
Well, all right. The Lucis Trust, as I recall, are responsible for publishing the Urantia book, right?
Yes. Was it
Hold
Lucius
on,
Trust
Kenny.
that published that, or but it was a for the yes. There's a direct relationship between the two. Yes.
Well, their whole objective, if you have read the Urantia book or parts of it anyway, their whole objective is to um, turn people's minds toward a different view of the Bible and biblical history, and hence people's reaction to what is coming as a fake arrival of a Messiah here on the planet with super technology. If you read the Urantia book, the first thing I noticed immediately was that they use the King James English in it when they're doing these and thous and that kind of stuff to try to tie it back to your biblical feelings. And my thought was, well, why didn't you just write it in English, and why all this King James junk? Why didn't you just get on with it instead of going back a century or two to put the language out there like that? And the whole objective would be, obviously, to make you think that it came from the same source because it sounds churchy or Bible-y like you're used to. But it really does change things to, well, it looks more like our elder brothers in space, created us and they're coming to help us. And to a degree, the heavens are like that. But what they're saying is that the first lot that arrive here, posing as God, will be the real ones. And we're saying, no, that's not right. This is a fake landing, a fake, it's Satan and his people coming to pretend to be God. And they're going to have a lot of supporting evidence, but it's going to be faulted. And if you've got 95% truth and 5% lie, the whole thing is rotten. That's what I think is about to happen, and why the Lucis Trust and those have been for a generation now, maybe a generation and a half, have been putting out stuff into the media, whether it be printed or video or whatever, on automatic writings, seances and this kind of stuff, to turn people away from the basics in the Bible into other books and other writings, which in essence open up doubt about our own Bible, the veracity of it, the truth of it. I debated with the Theosophical Society guy. He was from Findhorn, and they even accept the fact that it's going to be a disappearance of a lot of people all at once on the planet, and that what we would call the rapture. But he says that's the people that are going to be taken off the planet who just can't get along with the new age vibrations. These people are going to be taken away to some other planet to learn their lesson and get their vibes right and all that kind of junk, and then come back later and be reborn into some bodies here on Earth. But this is, it is so clever and insidious in that that people will be fooled if they don't have a strong foundation in the Bible.
No, I understand, and you are talking right up our alley. And I believe pretty much the same thing, that there is going to be, just like you said, they push the higher consciousness. And I wanted to ask you, you mentioned frequency. I wanted to ask you about frequency and its effects on the human body. We know that it does have an effect on the human body and the mind. Are we seeing frequency weapons be used against the population on a daily basis? There have been reports of Gwen towers to cell phone towers emitting some type of frequency. They say that they can play with our moods to make us depressed or happy or sad, or basically like a zombie.
Yes, Stan, please say yes, because I've got to explain my moods to my wife. So
Yeah, you're becoming a zombie. Yes, right. Look, I don't know. It is possible. We do know that radiation of different frequencies will produce different physiological effects in the body. This was tested in the early 1900s by Nikola Tesla, and he tested it on oh, what's his name? The writer, Tom Sawyer. Who wrote Tom Sawyer? My mind's just gone
Mark
blank.
Twain?
Mark Twain, right. Mark Twain was a friend of Tesla's, and he came by Nikki's lab one day because he made note of this in his memoirs. He said he came by Nikki's lab, and Nikki, Tesla, told him, hey, look at this. And he says, I want you to sit in this chair here in the middle of this electric field I'm producing, this frequency, and I found it does unusual things to your body. So he says, now, Mark, he says, the only thing I want you to do, and promise me, is that when I tell you to get out. Don't stay there. So the guy, Mark Twain, goes in and sits in the chair. Tesla turns on the field, and Mark Twain says, boy, that's great. My whole body feels rejuvenated and like massaged, and it, oh, Lord. And Tesla says, run. The John is that way. So Mark Twain jumped out of the chair and ran to the head. He had diarrhea. This had produced peristaltic motion in accelerated form in his body, to clean him out. But it did feel great, except that it had the deleterious effect of making him have diarrhea. Now, that's one frequency. Frequencies can be made very innocuous, very small, and so that they hit certain atoms, certain collections of atoms, at a wavelength. And over a period of time, if a person is exposed to these in one site, your body or your tissues will start to absorb that frequency and build up a harmonic amount of energy from it in phase, and that's when you get affected. Now, whether the cell towers, whether the wind farms, the noise of that is doing, whether it's ultrasound or infrasound or electromagnetic radiation, I do know that various radiations will do different things to you. I've found when playing with Tesla coils myself that I got into trouble with around 150 kilohertz. It hurt my body, but if they've experimented, like I'm sure they have, in all the other frequency ranges they can produce, they will have found some, of course, that will disorient you. You can do that with sound, but there may be electromagnetic frequencies that can do that to your tissues, to your nerves. Whether they're doing it or not as a some nefarious act, I don't know. I just really don't know, but it is possible. That technology is here. You asked me a while ago, Joe, about the triangles.
Yes.
In the ancient religions, going back into Egypt, the triangles, for some reason, they had the triangles of existence. And one triangle like this would be pointing as man down here looking up at God at the top peak. And the other triangle was looking down like this with the peak pointing down to man from God, God looking at man. And when the two combined, strange enough, it made the Star of David, but when the two combined, it was a union of man with God. And that has persisted from the times of the first kingdom, the first period of the pharaohs in Egypt. Why? Three is a pretty magical number in the Bible. It's supposed to represent the triune, the three-part God. Maybe that's it. I just don't know. But the triangles do appear that far back and related to God.
Interesting.
And if we have a deception coming, then it may be related to that.
Wow.
Yeah, the deception part bothers me a lot, Stan. I mean, it's when I think about the possibilities. I mean, we look at technology today, and look how fast. I mean, it was only 10 years ago when the televisions that we had, they had the huge back ends, and they weighed 600 pounds. I mean, they're just huge monsters. Now they're not paper thin, but they're very thin. They're very very far advanced. And also the holograms, the ability to create these holograms with the singers. This is what we know about. What don't we know about? What kind of technology is out there that we don't know about that could be manifested for nefarious purposes?
Well, it's, as you say, it's the ones we don't know about. But I have seen some promotional videos of a 3D laser thing that was done over in Germany, I think it was, where the side of a building had a matrix laid over it so they could produce massive. As long as you don't have to touch the hologram, you don't know whether it's solid or not. And if they did something like that with a charged atmosphere up above the planet, ionospheric charge or something like that in that area, it is possible, in my mind, for them to produce a three-dimensional image so that when it's being viewed from, say, America, at the same time over in China, they would see the side of it rather than the side that's facing you. And so it would appear to be a real solid object. Of course, if you got them touched, it would just be photons. It's not going to be like in Star Trek where you go into the holodeck and it's all real and touch and feel and that kind of stuff. It's not going to happen that way. But it could be visually made to look like something real. And that, you get back to that, you get back to the Blue Beam project, where it's been proposed that a whole flotilla of UFOs be created by holograms in the atmosphere, and then several large craft would come down and visit one or more major cities and say, look, we're here to help you, but we're here in great number, to be rather ominous and threatening, in essence, to the population of the Earth, only for Earth to find out, well, they're friendly, and they're going to help us set up a world government like theirs, wherever they come from. And that, of course, will be the great deception we all know is coming.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
and segues perfectly into my next questions. We see an increase.
You guys ganged up on this, didn't you?
Sorry about that, Stan.
Yeah.
That's all right. Go ahead.
We have noticed an increase in asteroids, meteors, and UFO sightings, and whether you could misinterpret one for the other, seeing a shooting star or a meteor, skipping across the atmosphere as a UFO. Either way, we know that May 31st they're talking about this dark asteroid object coming near the Earth. It seems like they are discovering these asteroids more and more frequently, that are making these close calls with the Earth, and we are seeing what seems to be an uptick in meteors, and we have Comet Ison coming at the end of this year. Aside from what you've already talked about, the spiritual aspect of this, and how we could see things happen and things done for a reason, as to mock or to make it look like prophecies being fulfilled, what other explanations could we see as an increase for such a vast increase in UFO sightings, especially, and close call asteroids?
Asteroids and meteorites. Okay, we may be passing through a dark group of meteors, or potential meteors, asteroids, potential meteorites, and asteroids. The thing is that unless a body, a small body like 300 meters diameter, smaller, unless it has some sort of light bouncing off of it, like sunlight, and it reflects the light rather than absorbs it, we're going to have a great deal of trouble even detecting that it's there. And if you can't detect that it's there, obviously you can't detect its orbit when it's coming. So as it gets closer, the small amount of reflectivity some of these might have is starting to reveal its presence. And we might only have 2 or 3 day notice when some of the larger ones hit our way, the 300 meter and smaller, larger ones. The great big ones, we should be able to detect, several years in advance and plot their courses. The increase in UFO activity, real UFO activity, can be determined by the reports that talk about these bright lights flying in formation, stopping, turning, zipping off at great speed, or making very zigzaggy movements at high speed. Meteorites don't do this. They have pretty much a one direction, one vector course coming in, and that's it. They leave this long cloud trail behind them, and they don't stop and break and go the other direction. So the increase in UFO sightings can either be due to some secret projects for China or United States, Russia, making new high-speed aircraft, which I doubt, or it could be due to real increased numbers of extraterrestrial, or at least non-human driven and made craft. The thing about it is, we've all known that there's been a cover-up since 1947 at Roswell, at least that far back. And it's been, judiciously denied by presidents. We're now getting to a point where we have a second-term president who has nothing to lose in political, capital, if he is the one to say, yes, we lied to you, they're here, and we're going to introduce them to you. people can forgive that, or it won't matter to him one way or the other. But they could forgive a second-term president, and if they didn't, it didn't matter because he's not going to get elected again unless they change the Constitution. So I think right now we're approaching a period in political history where a president of the United States could reveal the fact that we've been lying to you about, flying saucers, aliens being here for some time. All these things, to me, are coming to a head as so many other crisis curves are driving the population of the planet toward demanding a solution to Earth, not just some country. The people are wanting to solve the weather and the climate changes and food availability. They're wanting to have a stable, fair global economy. They want to have fair laws for all people on the planet. They want to get rid of our leaders and our Congresses and all the people that have gone corrupt. They're looking for an answer right now.
Yeah, you're right. And the New Age movement has picked up on this perfectly and playing right into their hands. If there was going to be a mock alien invasion or aliens posing as the saviors, they sure have done a tremendous job in already knowing how to deceive many without knowing what was going to happen. Because that's what they push, that there are aliens that are going to come save us and teach us how to live, and the Oprahs of the world, and the higher consciousness teachers, and Christ consciousness. We hear that word a lot, and people really need to understand that there are a whole big group of people trying to deceive the only people that can hinder their agenda, which are true believers in Christ. And because we will not fall for the trick of one new Messiah here walking the earth among us. We know when he comes, he is coming up.
We know how he's coming, and we know the conditions under which he's coming. But Stan, we just covered a lot of ground here. One of the questions I had, and when Joe was telling me about you coming on tonight, and I had talked to a couple of people about your appearance tonight. They want to know they want to know, as do I. What are you looking at right now that is most concerning of all the things that you've seen, whether it be today or last week or last month or over the last couple of months? What concerns you the most right now?
I guess it's the speed with which all this is coming down, the Great Deception. It has ramped up incredibly over the last year or two. And, looking at the administration of the White House at the moment, they are so open about just putting the screws to the people of the United States that I can't believe that they would be that open. I thought they'd at least try to hide some of what they're doing to take away our civil liberties and, our Second Amendment rights and many of our other rights as well, freedom of the press and whatever. But that does worry me because very soon people like yourself and me and others who write books or talk to people about what's happening will no longer have access to the people to warn them or to help them because our communication will be cut off and possibly some of us will be cut off as well. That worries me. That's clear and present danger to me and my family and to you and your family. Since I've been expecting the alien card to be played for so many years now, waiting for the right time. I see that happening now. That does frighten me as much as it lets me know that we're getting close to the end of this time when we have to be here on the planet ourselves. And it encouraged me to think that the good Lord's going to take us to a place of safety out of that. But it's not so much fear of that. It's just I just bemoan what used to be America that I knew in the early 50s. It was a place of imagination and wonder and discovery and happy times and hamburgers for 15 cents at McDonald's and convertibles and girls that rolled out on roller skates to serve you your drinks at the local Dairy Queen or something. I mean, it was a good time, but that time is long past in this country, and that makes me sad. I miss that.
As do I. I do remember. I do remember those times as well. And you mentioned something here about the hubris, Stan, of this, the openness of this failure to. They build themselves as the most transparent administration Well, they are transparent
In that
terms of what they're
respect, they
trying
are.
to do. Yeah. And I was talking too about with some people about our ability. How long do we have before we're not going to be able to talk as freely as we are right now? And I think that's a major concern. But in terms of communication, like the internet, this comes from a listener out of the UK, listening currently to our live broadcast. Do you believe, Stan, that the government of the United States specifically, or some other, perhaps like through the United Nations, are going to censor what's on the internet anytime soon?
Well, I think so. There's been a great deal of discussion between many of the leading nations about the internet and how to control it, and with political bodies wanting to tax it for various sales and stuff that occur, there's a financial incentive there as well. So I think that fairly shortly, a year or two, maybe less, that they'll be putting heavy controls on the internet, and those of us that use it as a communication medium, a sales medium for the kind of stuff we're doing. I mean, my book and Holly's book, we have a cross on it, a Christian cross on either the front or the back cover. And I think that that's very rapidly going to be censored as well, so that it looks like you're proselytizing, and that's a no-no, unless you're a Muslim, of course. But, yeah.
Yeah, Stan, that's right on the money. I mean, Christianity will be illegal in the United States sooner than later, as we see all the rhetoric coming against it, all the different angles they are working to take it away from people.
Joe, before you go on, I want to go over to Stan's house, and we're going to throw in a movie of, I don't know, Stan, something from the 50s or 60s, and we'll just sit there, eat popcorn, and watch the movie, and kind of...
American Graffiti.
There you go. Some of the stuff is so heavy when you really think about it. It really kind of, it's psychologically, wow. It just really plays with your mind and plays with your heart and spirit. But I'm going to toss it back.
Do that. We do that, Doug. We'll put on a good movie that's a escape movie, and we'll have popcorn or hot chocolate and popcorn or something like that. And that's how you escape from at least a little bit of the daily news. It's so bad. And it doesn't get any better, does it?
I wish I could say it does, but it seems like it's on an exponential. I don't know. It seems like it's on a rocket ship toward this incredible whatever's going to happen. It seems like it's going to happen pretty soon. But I'm going to toss it back to Joe. He's got some questions about Fukushima, I think.
Yeah, we only have a few minutes left, Stan, and this hour just flew by. Fukushima and the United States nuclear problems we are seeing here. The Palisades nuclear plant, the the other one. There's one in Michigan. There's one in Southern California.
Yeah.
Yes, and Fukushima. We saw articles that farmers are being allowed to grow rice for mass sale or mass consumption on the ground where you can't even stay the night. Yes, the San Onofre. What do you see as a future of the Northern Hemisphere with all this radiation flooding the Northern Hemisphere? And is Fukushima out of control? Is it too late to save to save things as far as Fukushima in your mind?
Fukushima is really a trouble spot, but it's not going to be the only trouble spot that's nuclear. I think we're going to have problems here in the United States, seeing as how so many of our nuclear facilities have been built over fault lines that weren't of any importance because they weren't active at the time, but now becoming active. And if that weren't enough, I think there are going to be some terrorists that manage to slip in and melt down one or more of our nuclear reactors near a populated area. So we're going to have our own Fukushima problems. Someone here a few months back was asking me, why don't you move down to Chile where land is cheap and, it's steps back a generation or so in technology and stuff. You can have a peaceful life down there, whatever. Well, to begin with, I'm not eager to leave the country anyway, but couldn't afford it. Secondly, and thirdly, Fukushima's radiation pattern in the ocean is striking all that coast of South America. I mean, it's lighting it up down there. The streams of radiation are in the sea and are already hitting the Chilean coast, not to mention the earthquake increases down there. So that's just one little problem, Fukushima. I see many more nuclear problems coming. And amongst those is the potential for nuclear war over the Middle East situation between Israel, Iran, and Syria. The biblical prophecy does say that Damascus in Syria will become a ruinous heap overnight and will never be inhabited again. Now that sounds to me to be nuclear. And this could happen if Israel finally has had enough of the biowarfare concentrations and developments in Syria, and they nuke Damascus. Or Damascus may nuke itself, trying to get a nuclear thing mounted on a missile to go to Israel, and it may go off and blow up Damascus at their own hand. If that happens, everybody's still going to blame Israel, but whether they did it or not. And my point is, that will escalate the threat of nuclear war, and we may see some of the suitcase nukes go off in the United States that have been sneaked in by terrorists, and then those are going to be more clear and present dangers to us than the Fukushima fallout.
I got to ask you this question because this segue is perfect into the suitcase nuclear issue. This is Ken from South Dakota asking, would you please ask Mr. Deyo if he knows whether there are any, looks like tactical nuclear devices located inside the continental United States, and if so, about how many and maybe location. So there you have it.
You know, I'm not an active member of NCIS Los Angeles, so I can't tell you. I have no idea. I've heard rumors of up to 6 or 7, but they're just rumors. They're hearsay. And if I knew that, I'd probably be working for Homeland Security.
Well, yeah, I guess so. But,
last question, Stan. We're running out of time here at the top of the hour. Earthquakes. Where do you see a hotspot? Where should we look at? And then anything you want to say to take us out that we need to watch for we haven't mentioned yet?
Yeah, I need to know which vacation home to sell first, Stan. So you tell me.
Say that again.
I need to know which one of my many vacation homes to sell first. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. But earthquake.
Okay, seriously, I would sell any homes that I've got on the coast of the United States. Certainly up the Mississippi along the New Madrid fault line, and west of the New Madrid fault line, or west of the Mississippi into Arkansas and Oklahoma. I would be concerned about seismic activity there. And I guess you better get yourself a radiation meter to take to the supermarket so that you can test all your fish for whether they glow in the dark or not. I don't know how you're going to check for, parasite infections and various other things that are passed on to the vegetables by the farm workers that are illegals. But, it's getting to the point where you're going to have your freeze-dried food to depend on, because the stuff you get at the supermarket is either going to be irradiated or, dangerous or too expensive or something. We've been warning people, you and I both, for some time that they need to get food that's storable and keep it for 15 years if you need to. But that's
well, by the way, that does correct me that does work if you have a portable radiation detector for like nuclear type thing. It does work to take to the grocery store, does it not?
Yes, it will, and it won't get the stuff like the chemicals they used in the Gulf of Mexico to break up the oil spill. That's found in some seafood, and like oysters and things like that, as an actual black substance you can see. That is not radioactive, so I'm kind of off seafood for a while. Just too many dangers with it.
Gotcha. Well, that's interesting. I didn't know if. Seriously, I didn't know if, for example, my wife buys salmon, and we like to have salmon, and I don't know where it comes from. Actually, so how do you tell?
Who's going to tell you the truth about their product they're trying to sell to you?
Exactly.
That's the worry.
Exactly. So if you did have a portable nuclear device like a Nuke Alert or whatever the brand name would be out there, certainly take it to the supermarket and give it a once over the seafood or whatever.
At this rate, you're going to need to wear a health mask, one of those little white masks that you strap on like the nurses wear to keep from getting infected by various contagious diseases. That's the other thing you got to worry about. And you wear gloves in the supermarket so you don't get contact of various things that might be lurking on the food itself on the dirty cans or on the carts that you wheel it around in.
Good point.
It's just common sense, really, in this day and age.
Wow. Wow. That says a lot.
Mr. Deyo, we want to thank you for being on our show again. You can find Stan Deyo's website at standeyo.com. Get his books, The Cosmic Conspiracy, or Holly Deyo's book, Dare to Prepare, and essential in any preparing situation. It is some call it the Bible of preparedness books. Any closing comments before we let you go, Stan?
No, I think that's about it. As you mentioned, people can visit our website at Holly Updates with News 6 days a week, and it's all current news to people who are awake and aware. Good night, guys.
Stan, you're a blessing. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. You have a great weekend.
Talk to you again. Bye-bye.
All right. And folks, definitely bookmark standeyo.com. That's standeyo.com. We will have a permanent link up on our website to his website. And, of course, Dare to Prepare, one of the best preparation books you can buy. And, of course, The Cosmic Conspiracy. I got to tell you, you won't put it down. It's just a fantastic information-filled book. Folks, you're listening to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. I'm Doug Hagmann. With me is Joe Hagmann. Together, we are the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. We'll be right back after these brief messages. Stay with us on the other side.
Ladies and gentlemen, the very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no secret is revealed. That is why the Athenian lawmaker Solon decreed it a crime for any citizen to shrink from controversy. I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people, confident that with your help, man will be what he was born to be, free and independent.
You want answers? I'll take up the title. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to hour number 3 of this Thursday edition of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. It is a live broadcast, Thursday, May 23rd, 2013. This just in from our tremendous Troy from the Christians United Broadcasting Network. Do you realize, ladies and gentlemen, that Germany, the country of Germany, is blocking our broadcast of John F. Kennedy's Secret Society speech? They refuse to play that? Really?
Copyright infringement, apparently. Even though they,
it's actually not.
No.
I mean, I could show you.
It's fair use.
Well, no, it's even beyond that. That's not even true. Wow. But let me say this, ladies and gentlemen. You can find us online at HomelineSecurityUS.com, and certainly if you want to hear to our friends in Germany, if you want to hear the Kennedy speech about secret societies, you can certainly go to YouTube and find it. I want to say hello to our neighbors to the north, CanadaFreePress.com. Bookmark that website as well. I want to thank Stan Deyo for joining us for that hour. What an interesting hour we had. Also, I just want to mention one more time here, our good friends at AmericanSurvivalWholesale.com. They've actually done like a money bomb for us, or doing a money bomb for us. I guess that's what they call those, right? Like a fundraiser. From now until the end of the show on tomorrow night, their goal, and God bless these people, is to raise money for us to keep us on the air. $10,000 actually is their goal. But folks, their passion, their determination is really at the core of it all, is to help you and I survive. It's to help fellow Christians survive, prepare for what we all know are challenging times to come, to say the least. Our show, our efforts, we believe we're waking up people, and I think we're making a difference. We're actually number 71 on iTunes, ranked number 71 on iTunes, despite all of our clumsiness on air, despite the fact that sometimes it sounds like amateur hour. We'll be the first to admit it. I'll tell you, we'll be the first to admit it. But here's the deal. American Survival Wholesale, they've agreed to donate a quarter, 25% of their gross proceeds of their entire selection of stun guns. Now they retail for right around $40, $39.95. And I got to tell you something, folks. I would not send my daughter out to work, or even to the grocery store, or my wife even to the grocery store, without at least a stun gun. And they want to sell 1,000 units, and I know there's 1,000 people out there in our listening audience that can use or don't have stun guns and certainly can afford one. It's not about the money for us, please. It's not about that. It's about your protection, please, because soon, and I have a feeling in my gut, that we're not going to be able to buy stun guns pretty soon, any type of offensive weapons. So get them while you can. They have quality products. It's American Survival Wholesale, and they've even agreed to provide 10% of all the gross proceeds of their complete line of 7-day and 72-hour survival kits and survival vests. I got to tell you, quality, top-notch merchandise. And I just want to say thank you to them, but more importantly, well, equally important is, folks, get yourself prepared. Please, get yourself prepared, because we know bad things are coming. There's a bad moon arising, and I would like you to check too, if you haven't already. Read Bad Moon Rising on CanadaFreePress.com. Leave a comment there, or on HomelineSecurityUS.com. And also, there's a new article up today on HomelineSecurityUS.com, and we're working on some more disclosures, rather important disclosures, that hopefully will be published here tomorrow, the next day, at CanadaFreePress.com, as well as our website, and that's HomelineSecurityUS.com. Wow. And don't forget about the National Insecurity Seminar.
Yeah.
Register for that.
Also, this weekend is Memorial Day weekend, correct?
Yeah. How'd that happen?
We have not talked about Monday, if we're going to do a show. I say we do one.
I'm going to do a show on Monday. I was going to tell you that. I was going to say that if you want to take it off, go ahead. But I'm going to do a show on Monday. What do you think? We should just do it. And
I'll be here with you then.
You can fire up the Barbie and join right along with us.
Great. That's great. I was looking forward to doing that. And we will be, when we are traveling to our seminar in Apex, North Carolina, we will be broadcasting live from there also.
Absolutely. The thing is this, and we're also putting together that fourth hour, and it's no small task. It's not like flipping on a switch and being able to do things. There's a lot of planning involved in this, and it's going to be day side from the dark side, perhaps. I don't know. But we're going to be providing you real-time information as to what's happening over in the Middle East, over where it's daylight when it's dark here. That's something that we're going to be working on as well. Yep.
One last announcement.
Sure.
Last Saturday, I was on Omega News. This is on Blog Talk Radio with Scott Kessler, and it was broadcast today earlier, just before the show or during the show. I'm going to put a link in the chat room, and it is Omega News, the episode from 5/23. It aired today. You guys check it out and listen if you are able and can, because it was a great show. And I want to thank Scott because he wrote a book and he sent it to me, and I don't know if I brought it with me or not. The Omega Manifesto, an excellent book. I just started to read it, and it's fantastic. I want to say thank you, Scott, for the interview and for the book, and we will be talking with you soon.
Yeah, exactly. Now we've got a lot more news to get into. One thing that I do want to mention, because before the top of the last hour, after or before Stan came on, we were talking about what happened in London, and we were talking about Islam and Christianity. Look, folks, there is this dramatic pressure to really shield the American public from the truth of Islam. And I know that sounds, people will say, well, that sounds pretty bigoted, racist to some extent, but bigoted in terms of the religion. Well, if you really study the Quran, if you understand what Islam is all about, you'll understand the basis behind that statement. But the London mayor, and I want to thank Marianne for this, Daniel Greenfield wrote this. The London mayor is completely wrong to blame this killing on Islam. Well, what in the world do you blame this on? Or, what's the motive? You've got motive, means, and opportunity. On his Twitter account, London Mayor Boris Johnson called the murder of a British soldier by two Muslims a sickening, deluded, and unforgivable act of violence. Of course it was. But he has said that the blame for this murder lies with the warped mindset of his killers. Now, one obvious point. It is completely wrong, he says, to blame this killing on Islam. Meanwhile, the killers shouting Allahu Akbar or Allah Akbar as they are attempting to decapitate their victim.
Now, I did not watch this video.
Yeah.
Were there people literally standing around videotaping it instead of trying to help the soldier who was being assaulted?
Well, here's how it looked to me, okay? And folks in the chat or listening to this or whatever, it looked like the victim was struck by a vehicle first, and may or may not have been pinned or thrown or something happened. He was struck by a vehicle. And then from there, the perpetrators went after him and were using a meat cleaver type instrument along with a knife. Now, as he lied and was lying on the road. Now, having said that, there were people that were walking by, and there were people that were watching. There were people that were, I want to say, spectators, if you will. But there was also one person, at least one person, videotaping the killer. Now, it's not clear to me, and this is one of the questions I had asked and have yet to have an answer. Was this person related in any way, shape, or form to the perpetrators? Or was this just some person with a video camera who happened to be on site? That would be one of the big questions, or even like a cell phone video type thing. This is what we have to look at. There appeared to me, and folks, you can take a look at the video yourself. There appeared to me this nonchalance, this nonchalance about, or this just walk on by people. This not wanting to become involved, not seeing what was before their very eyes. Now,
Well, no,
if you're unarmed, though, I don't know if you're going to try to stop a guy with a meat cleaver.
exactly where I was going next.
Because
they are gun-free zone.
Gun-free. Sure, but not machete-free, or not meat cleaver-free, or not knife-free, but gun-free. So,
but see, I thought once you get rid of the guns, the violence stops, right?
As exemplified by this latest incident, of course, and I've seen the argument, by the way, on places where, well, he wasn't shot, so that's.
Piers Morgan, you're free to call in 661-244-9839 is the number, and we will be taking calls here in a minute. And Piers, you're more than happy if you want to call in. You can call in and state your point. That it is the guns that kill people, and sadly, I'm joking because that was really a crusade he went on, an anti-Second Amendment, and it's now come out by Ed Schultz and Lawrence O'Donnell and the people from MSNBC too. Back to Piers Morgan, that the agenda is to confiscate the guns. They don't want any guns. The Second Amendment is bad. The Second Amendment, it needs to go. Period. Then they've just flat out came out and said it. We've had that person in New Jersey confiscate. We had Scott Bach on, or I think it was Scott Bach, a week ago Monday, and he was talking about what happened in that New Jersey hearing. And there is just this continuation of push towards getting the guns out of the hands of the American people. Now, we see so much going on in the news, so much happening in as far as the quote-unquote scandals. And I say that because what are we not seeing that they're doing right now? What are they setting up? What are they setting this up for? Do you really think Holder is going to go to jail? Do you really think Obama is going to go to jail? Or you think this is a diversion to a stall tactic and a way of getting people
getting diverted from right. Exactly
from the spiritual issues to so involved into the political spectrum, where they had a piece when they were focusing on X, Y, and Z. Now they're looking over here because they see everything that's going on. It almost, with all this, it almost seems like they're trying to bring the Tea Party back in a more violent way. The way it looks like this is being, I want to say, shown to us.
Well, I don't quite see it that way, and you and I can have this discussion at a different time. But if you take everything cumulatively, look at everything cumulatively. You can even start, ladies and gentlemen, from the lack of documentation of this alleged president without a birth certificate. Isn't it interesting that the very people who are complaining now about what's taking place didn't really care about his bona fides, about his eligibility? Oh, that was a distraction. Isn't that interesting? Well, now we find out, or based on the preponderance of evidence, at least I would call it that we have a Manchurian candidate in the White House, a man who has essentially stolen elections. Well, how does he do that? Well, imagine 100% voting for Obama at different precincts, and I mean, voter fraud is rampant. But you take all of these issues, the very issues that some had called distractions, and look where we are right now. But you take them cumulatively. Look at history. Look at what happened during the Clinton administration. We don't need a special prosecutor right now because we don't have the time. The only way, we cannot fight this politically. We have to do this legally because we're looking at crimes, not scandals. And I think that's what really we have to drive that home. We have to look toward the RICO laws, look at perhaps grand juries presenting indictments, jailable offenses. I mean, this is what we need to do. Are there conspiracies? Of course. Is this a conspiracy to really take over the United States? I think that this is what we're seeing right now. Did it just happen? No, of course not. It didn't just happen.
Well, a conspiracy to take over the United States has already been complete, and it's been complete for a long time. The only thing incomplete about the takeover is the actual implementation of the plans or the agenda. And we are seeing a lot of that now, as you just said, yes.
Well, the IRS by itself, as a group, compared. Well, look at this. It's Chicago mob politics. If you accept, even at the very least, if you accept the IRS crime and the scandals, whatever you want to call it, I prefer crime. But if you look at the IRS alone, did they not, by the very definition of conspiracy, conspire to take over the election or influence the election, shall we say? Look at what unions had done back in the 60s and 70s. The union thuggery that went on, the Chicago union thuggery, the Chicago thuggery. This is what we're seeing here on a larger scale with the IRS. The IRS alone, as a group, conspired, as I see it, and they have acted as a criminal organization. So therefore, a political solution is not possible. This is a criminal problem. The Attorney General Holder should recuse himself, or somehow be recused, and we need to take this. The law that applies here is the RICO statute, and because a lot of this too, look at the money aspect of this. Who are the beneficiaries of this conspiracy? Again, we don't need, nor should we ask for, a political solution. Rather, we should require a criminal prosecution. And that's what we need. Are these all diversions? I don't think so.
I'm not sure yet. We're going to have to go to the phone lines, see what you guys think. We're going to go to 864 area code first. Thanks for calling the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. You're live.
Hey, I was just calling because I was thinking about Obama and when he was elected 5 years ago, and how so many of the celebrities got behind him. He's like the first sort of celebrity president that we've had, because I remember when Oprah was out campaigning with him, and just the whole United States and the world, everybody knows who she is. And, her talk show, everybody loved her talk show, and just, right in there with her and everything. Well, she eventually, she was a Bible-believing Christian at one time, but eventually went over to the dark side, but everybody loved her, and so she got behind him. And I think so many people wanted to have the first black president too, and so a lot of young people were voting for him because he was doing all of these activities, like Oprah was behind him, and then he was Facebooking everybody. I think that was before Twitter. I'm not sure if Twitter was out 5 years ago or not. Maybe it was, but anyway, he was doing all the latest cool things, to communicate with the young people. And of course, he has the look. He's got the smile and the charm and everything. And so many young people today are not well educated. And they don't know anything. The public schools just are not teaching history. They don't know anything about history. They don't know anything about politics. And so they go with this celebrity mentality. It's like the celebrities are running the country in some ways. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense.
Yes, it does. And the big problem I see with that is how people put other people on pedestals and look to other people as role models, as people that they should strive to be like, instead of looking at the only person who is on the earth that we should strive to be like, our Lord and Savior. They look everywhere else, and the people allow that to happen by playing into their ego.
I agree. I agree, but caller, here's what I also see as well. I also see the in-game result of a larger architecture, a larger framework. To me, we're seeing the product of what has been years and decades in the making. I don't know if you see that or not.
I do see that, and I just, it hasn't happened overnight, but I just think that, taking, well, first of all, they took the Bible out of the schools, so people don't even know their Bibles anymore, and then they took prayer out of the schools, and then they took, so we've been just systematically over the last 100 years or so just removing God from every public sphere of our country. And so all of this other stuff has come in, because we don't have God's approval or protection, and He is allowing this stuff to happen, and remedial judgments as a way to call us back to Him. But it's not happening, as you can see. And so many people's eyes are closed. And you guys talk about this all the time. And I'm out in this community shopping and doing things. And, I'm always mentioning, well, what's going on in the world? And trying to get people to think about what's happening in our world. Because they know something's going on, but they just continue to go about their daily business as if nothing's going on. And there are very few that are really awake. I mean, you guys are opening the eyes of a lot. There's very few that are awake. But I'll just say one thing, because I know you probably have a lot of callers, but I thought that when a person was converted to Islam, that they changed their name. And Barack Hussein Obama is a Muslim, sounds like a Muslim name to me. And I remember reading about Malcolm X when I was in college many years ago, and they changed their name, don't they? So it's very obvious that he's a Muslim.
Well,
I mean, am I right about that?
Well, you're talking about two different things. First of all, when you convert to Islam, it's my understanding it is not necessary. It's almost like as a Christian or Catholic, when you're baptized, you assume, for example, the name of a saint, or confirmed, I should say, you assume is the name of a saint. You take on an extra name, shall we say, in confirmation. But in Islam, it's not. I don't believe it's a requirement to change your name, at least not publicly or legally. Okay, that's the one thing. However, we have a man in the White House now. This is related, but distinctly different. We've got a man in the White House who is known as Barry Soetoro, and now Barack Hussein Obama, and there's been no documentation whatsoever to prove that there was any legal name change from Barry Soetoro to Barack Hussein Obama, or vice versa. In fact, we've got a third name yet in there as well, a third surname in there as well. So it's a very curious situation. And caller, let me ask you a question. If the week of 9/11, if on 9/12 or 9/13 of 2001, if I would have stopped you in the supermarket and said, you know what, 7 years from now we would elect a president by the name of Barack Hussein Obama, given all of the things that happened the day before or that week, and Islam, the 19 Arab Muslim hijackers being blamed for this, would you have believed me?
I really don't know, because I remember that, I was in the grocery store the next day after 9/11 shopping, and I remember talking to people, and I just said, this is going to change everything. I mean, I just walked around my neighborhood by myself just saying, Lord, something's going to change. This is going to change. I just knew somehow that it was going to change everything. But I wasn't at the time, really, because I was involved in raising my young children at the time. I didn't know how it was going to change. I didn't know much about terrorism. I mean, I really didn't. I mean, it was a wake-up call for all of us. I mean, I think people in the military and reporters and people like that knew that terrorism was, a big threat to our country. But I think just speaking for myself, I really didn't. I mean, I was just involved in raising my kids, and you're real busy, and you just don't think about it. But I did. I was in the grocery store, and I would talk to people the day after. I said, "This is going to change everything. Food prices are going to go up." I didn't know how it was going to change. I just knew it would. And no, it's rampant.
Wow.
I mean, terrorism is rampant, and it seems like they have a free reign. Like I don't know if it's our administration or all of the administrations of the world are just sort of allowing it to happen, and it's okay. I don't know. I just don't get it. It's got to change, but I don't know what the answer is.
Well, and that's why we talk about the New World Order. That's why, for example, in the second hour yesterday, Joe and I spoke of, for example, the CFR, Council on Foreign Relations, and the Trilateral Commission, because there is a push to the New World Order. And it's our belief that Islam is a tool of the New World Order. So that this is where the change is coming from, and this is what's the impetus for change is something bigger. Because you know what, caller, you can go on the internet and you can look at different sites that take Islam to task for this and for that, but what they don't give you is what is beyond that particular situation, is how Islam is being used to ferret in there, or to push in the New World Order. So we have to even look bigger.
You're
because
right.
the lie is bigger.
I really don't know how it's. You're right. I don't know how it's being used to usher in the New World Order. I really don't. But I'm sure you're right. There is a connection.
There is, and we try to connect the dots, because what we're seeing here, and what most people are seeing when they talk about Islamic terrorism, they're seeing just one side of, let's say, a dice. People are familiar with dice. They're seeing just one side of that die, for example. There are multiple sides to it, and that whole dice represents the culmination of what these globalists want, and that's one world government. They're using the terrorist as a tool, and by the way, terrorism is a tactic. So when people say war on terrorism, that's incorrect. Terrorism is a tactic. It is not a target. And with that, I will leave you with your thoughts. But,
okay, thank you very much, and thank you for your work, and we all love you guys. God bless you.
Love you too. Thank you. What a great caller, John.
Thank you. Yeah,
great call.
Fantastic calls. We always have fantastic calls because we have the best audience, and we're going to move right along and go to area code 580. You're up next. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Hey, how you guys doing? Pleasure to listen to you.
Pleasure having you.
Fantastic. What's on your mind?
Hey, well, I'm a fairly young guy in my 30s. I've caught on to a lot of this stuff that's been going on since I was about 19 or so. And so in the last 10 years, I've noticed that the atmosphere, people are kind of coming aware to what's going on. But my question is, for you guys who've been involved in this a lot longer, has it always been that way, or is the atmosphere really changing? If you get what I'm saying, because we've been through the Cold War, and we've been through, Desert Shield and all that stuff. But now it's almost like it's our belt foot at the quick.
Caller, I remember. A caller, I remember. The short answer to your question. Has it always been this way? The short answer is no. I remember when the Iranian hostage crisis back in 1979 began, and Nightline was started, and then you had Desert One, the attempt to rescue the hostages, the 52 American hostages in Iran, and I remember thinking back then, wow, we are at the really tip of something that's going to change everything. But the changes were incremental. And as we went through the 80s, we saw various things happen. For example, the hijacking of John Testrake, TWA flight. I can't remember where the sailor was shot and thrown overboard in 1985, I believe it was.
Wasn't 800, was it?
No. And then, but everything was incremental. So to answer your question, however, no, I don't believe, and feel free to correct me or to add your own opinions, callers and listeners, but no, I think things have just dramatically accelerated here over the last 10 years or 13 or 12 years, but even more than that, accelerated even greater over the last 5.
And I'll agree.
Yeah, it's just one of and it's one of those things that you try to. Well, I think 5 years ago, I mean, you try to talk to people about this stuff, what you're saying, and yeah, they wouldn't get it. But now, even some of the what would you say, hardcore liberals, however you want to name them, are even starting to come around, and especially with the stuff with Obama now, he's getting hammered pretty hard, and so is his administration. So, I don't know if people are coming wise or he takes the wrong people off or something, But yeah, it's just I was always wondered that, is it just me or is it really things kind of winding up to wind down here? But that was my thought, guys. I appreciate your time.
Well, thank you very much for the call. We really appreciate that. And I think, Joe, when that caller mentioned one thing, I think, too, that, there comes a time, and I believe whether it's Obama or whoever it might be, when that person becomes suddenly, shall we say, they lose their, usefulness for the overall goal and objective.
Yeah.
And when that happens, oh boy, watch out, because they become dangerous. The people behind the scenes become dangerous, and this is what I believe we're seeing right now.
They are just as big, much used as tools as any other faction that is being used right now. We're going to move on. Area code 916. Thanks for your patience. We're coming to you next. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Hi, Doug. Joe, it's Lars from. Just got back from Israel.
Well, shalom. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm blessed, and I just asked the Lord to what He deposited in our journey would be deposited upon you in Yeshua's name. And there's so much going on. I can just give you a couple quick highlights. The deception that's in Israel is unbelievable. I spent 11 days in Jerusalem just walking the streets with my shofar and praying and just, encountering people. And what I found between Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, and Jaffa, asking many different Israelis, 60% of the population does not believe in God. That shocked me.
Flat out. Wait a second. Okay, you're not differentiating between Jews. You're just talking people. 60% of the people that you talk to just don't have any belief in the higher deity.
Yeah, I had just asked, and they said, well, this was brought to my attention that they would say, and that this was multiple people, that 60+% of the population of Israel does not believe in God. And I was just shocked. So that was one thing that was brought to my attention. The other one would be to engage them and walk up and just say, like how angry God is. And they would look at me with this odd look and say, why is he angry? And I would say, because of sin. And just by saying that, they humbled themselves and they'd say, you're right. So, the day that I left, I found it interesting because I knew the Lord was going before me. They did the strike on Syria and hit that munitions dump basically about 24 hours before we arrived. And so it was kind of interesting. It was peaceful for the most part. They had some typical protests, but I just wanted to engage the people, sound the shofar, and the Israeli people, and even the Muslims really enjoy the shofar.
Really?
When
you the Muslim residents of Israel, are you talking about?
Yeah. I was able to, because I engaged the Muslims because I know how to go past the flesh and go right into the spirit and take authority over it. And what I found one day, I went to the Dung Gate, which is right outside the Kotel, the Wailing Wall, and that has been generally a hot spot because King David City is right outside that gate, and they're unearthing it. Actually, they're taking the layers down. And there's been a lot of contention between the Muslims and the Jewish people there.
Right.
So one day I went down to pray, and I saw these, maybe 19, 20-year-old Arabs, and they were getting, I could just in the spirit, it's a rebellious spirit. Doesn't matter if it's, just a spirit. And they were kind of trying to antagonize the soldiers. So I just walked between them, and I just walked up to them, and I said, hey, let me tell you something. God Almighty is angry. And they instantly humbled themselves. So I got to see, by engaging darkness with the light of Christ, that always wins. And, perfect love casts out fear. And if you walk in it, it actually works.
Right. I mean, perfect love does cast out fear.
Yeah. And good for you for doing what you did, and that's the right way to handle things.
Are you currently in Israel?
No, I just got back actually yesterday, and I spent a total of, I was on the road for 18 days, and it was just me and the Holy Spirit. I had a couple people come up to me, and I was walking through one area of the Damascus Gate Muslim quarters, and there was a camera crew that was interviewing some gentleman, and I sounded the shofar maybe 100 yards away, got close to him, and I was standing maybe 10, 12 feet away. I went to take the picture from the angle of the interview, and all three people looked at me, and I kind of thought it was kind of strange. Why would they look at me when I'm being quiet, taking the picture 10 to 12 feet away from an angle which they couldn't really see me? And then all of a sudden, a Muslim man, an older man, came up and shoved me, started yelling and shoved me, and started saying he was going to kill me, and he just threw obscenities. And I started laughing, and then I looked, and the camera crew turned their camera on me, and then a photographer started shooting pictures of me. And then I just looked at the man. I said, hey, man, I love you, man. They didn't know what to do. So, it does work. And I have one scripture, because this is in 1 Samuel 2, verses 8, 9, and 10. And the gist of this scripture, I went to the Dung Hill, which is outside the Kotel, and I found what the history of the Dung Hill, the garbage gate, and or the Dung Gate. And I just went there and I just repented and asked the Lord to forgive us for, bringing this garbage to this gate. And that day my scripture was this scripture. It says, he raises up the poor out of the dust and lifts up the beggar from the dunghill, to set them among princes and to make them inherit the throne of the glory. For the pillars of the earth are the Lord's, and he has set the world upon them. He will keep the feet of the saints, and the wicked shall be silent in darkness. For by strength shall no man prevail. The adversaries of Yahweh shall be broken to pieces. Out of heaven shall he thunder upon them. Yahweh shall judge the ends of the earth, and he shall give strength unto his king, and exalt the horn of his anointed. So that's just a quick, I just wanted to just give you a quick update on that. It was a really blessed trip, and I just wanted to extend that blessings to you guys.
Well, thank you so much. And blessings to you, too. A fantastic call. I'm glad you made your trip journey safe, and thank you for being a voice of light out there and reason.
Yeah. Thanks much.
And thank you for the prayers and all the people that prayed for us. So thank you. God bless you guys.
Indeed. God bless us well. I just want to address Joe an email I got from JC. JC writes this. There seems to be anomalies in the London beheading that possibly indicate a false flag. I recommend that you check them out before commenting on air, as you, quote, assume. And then, of course, you know what that is, how you break the word assume down before you assume what is reported is true. Well, JC, thank you for that. I didn't fall off the turnip truck yesterday. I understand, and I do know. If you listen to what I said it appeared that he was struck by a car. It was reported that the video showed this, and whatever. I didn't assume anything. I am telling the listening audience what we have seen. Have we investigated this? Of course not. But the matter of, however, for an individual suspect or perpetrator holding a bloodied machete, and a bloodied knife, and indeed shouting Allah Akbar or Allah Akbar, however you want to pronounce it, and being associated with that individual, that victim. My comment was directed toward those who immediately will dismiss any connection between their activities and Islam or Islamic terrorism. That's where I've got a problem with that. Just like I've got a problem with Nadal Hassan, that situation being classified as workplace violence and not motivated by Islamic beliefs and motivation. So, again, there's a very extreme or there very significant distinction between what I said and what you allege. Now I take that, JC, with the as you intended, of course. And we want to be correct in what we report. So, I don't take that in any as being a hostile email. I just want to let you know that there's certainly more to this than what they are reporting. You're indeed correct. However, let's not hide the fact that Islam, the connection between Islam and certain terrorist attacks and certain acts of terrorism, let's not hide that fact. So,
yeah, moving right along here, we're going to go to 770. Thanks for your patience. You're going live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Hi, Joe and Doug. I'm calling about my impression of Obama. When he first surfaced, I was overwhelmed. It was a spiritual thing. I was overwhelmed with a sense of evilness. It was so overwhelming that I could not bear to look at his image or listen to his voice. Until this day, I still cannot look at his image, and I can't bear to listen to his voice. I believe that he is utterly evil. And I don't think that it hasn't come out yet, but I believe he's utterly evil. There's no doubt also that the Bilderberg group selected him, put him in position to be president, and they certainly did choose the perfect one for their evil agenda.
Wow.
That's all
Well, I'll tell you, caller, I agree with the fact that...
one other thing.
Yeah,
Pardon me for jumping in. I don't want to forget this either. The day it was announced that Obama was elected president the first time, yeah. I got a phone call, and someone asked what I thought of the election, and it just came out of my mouth. He may be the last president, and I believe Obama is the last president. I believe that without a doubt. And I did not vote at all this last election because I believe very strongly America Babylon's judgment is soon. God says, flee Babylon. Do not partake in her sins. And I knew Obama would be elected again because he is the last president. I might sound crazy, and I don't care what I sound like. I'm saying what I believe.
You know what, caller? You're in a club, a pretty big club, where a lot of people believe that Obama is going to be the last president. He will oversee the destruction, complete annihilation of the United States as a sovereign nation. And I happen to be among or a member of that club. I too believe that look, I know we've said this before about different elections.
He could be the last elected leader.
Right.
He could be not the last. We don't know.
You know what?
But things are changing.
Caller. I believe this caller. I can relate to her. The evil nature that we're seeing from this man.
I mean, I have the same sentiment about Bush. I didn't think he was going to leave. I thought he was evil to his core. And
caller, are you still there? caller?
I'm
Are you
here.
still there?
Yes.
Yeah. Did
Yes,
you
I'm
believe
here.
that about? Did you believe that about Bush? Did you get any evil inclinations or anything about
Okay.
Bush?
Okay. This is what happened to me. Actually, I was taken in by Bush. His first term, I was taken in by him. By his second term, before he was elected for his second term, my eyes opened. However, this is with Obama. This is a separate thing. It is a spiritual thing because I still cannot look at his image. And there's only one other person that affected me like that, and that is Adolf Hitler. And I will tell you why. When my father came home from the Second World War, he came home with, I don't know how many hundreds of pictures of Hitler. He came home with all kinds of souvenirs. And I could not ever look at the pictures. I just felt this overwhelming evilness.
Wow.
And it happened to me when I saw Obama on television for the first time. I knew nothing about him. And it's an overwhelming sense of evilness. I will tell you one other thing. In 1993, I already told this to Joe when you were out sick, Doug. You were out sick that night. But in April 1993, the Holy Spirit gave me a prophetic word that America is going to burn Sodom and Gomorrah for her sins. And it was a supernatural thing. And the Lord even said why. And he said the abortions, the blatant homosexuality, and what they're teaching the little children in the schools, it's gone too far. There's no stopping it. America is Sodom and Gomorrah. Judgment is going to come down on America. And it was not until, I think around 2010, on WorldNet Daily, someone exposed Kevin Jennings, Obama's educational czar, who authorized a manual to be taught in all the public schools to little children beginning at age 5, teaching them graphic homosexual acts. And I want to tell you, for years, I knew what I understood what the Lord meant when he said the abortions and the homosexuality. But when he said, and what they're teaching the little children in the schools, made no sense to me. What could be so evil about what they're teaching the little children? And there, in 2010, it came to pass. So, I do believe America's days are numbered. America's days are numbered. And believe me, I have this written down. I had told many, many people back in 1993 when this happened to me. Many, many people I've told. So I got confirmation. But anyway, repentance, and that's what I keep telling myself every single day. I got to make sure I have a pure heart because we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. The days are short, and God bless you both richly because we are living in a time where you cannot speak of Jesus in most places. You can't. I was fired from jobs when I was working for talking about the Lord. I was fired.
Oh.
But hearing the Hagmann radio program is like it's like being fed. It's like just the hunger it ceases. I don't know if I'm explaining this right, but you're let out of prison and you could just be free in the Lord. So I just pray that the Lord God protects you both and your families and keeps you safe and keeps you on this wonderful, wonderful mission that you are doing for the Lord's glory and saving souls. Thank you, gentlemen.
God
Have a
bless
wonderful
you.
night.
Thank you so very much for that call and for the very humbling remarks. My goodness.
Yeah.
And that Joe, that caller referred to Kevin Jennings, and a lot of people don't know who Kevin Jennings is. He was, for a period of time, he was the assistant deputy secretary of he with the U.S. Department of Education. But his claim to fame, honest to goodness, people, his claim to fame is he wrote a number of books about homosexuality coming out, geared at the youth of America. And I can't imagine a worse person to have anywhere within the school district than Kevin Jennings. That's my personal view, ladies and gentlemen. And if you just do a search on Kevin Jennings, you'll get the scoop of who this man is. My goodness. But what a wonderful call. Thanks for letting me say that.
Absolutely wow. Fantastic call. We can fit one more call in here. We're going to go to area code 626. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Hey, hello, Doug and Joe, and God's blessings on you both. I'm really blessed to be able to make it in here for a brief minute or two. And gentlemen, I was going to make a few points tonight regarding the economy and the shift occurring beneath our feet as sort of a warm-up for V tomorrow evening. But rather what I'd like to do is just offer to the Hagmann and Hagmann family this evening some opportunities to pick up a book and educate themselves because, as many of the callers have stated tonight, we are in a quickening. Time is of the essence. Regarding some of the recent callers, the gentleman that just got back from Israel, Mike Evans is the chairman of the Jerusalem Prayer Team. And Doug, I believe you've read one of his books, as
yes.
have I. I've read 3 of his books. Any curiosity that the Hagmann and Hagmann family has about Israel, I highly recommend Mike Evans. With regard to another previous caller, there is a term I'd like to enter into the Hagmann and Hagmann lexicon called the Overton window, and it's named after the former state superintendent of education for Michigan, whose name was Charles Overton. It is also the title of an excellent work of fiction by Glenn Beck, published back in 2009. And the Overton window is the mechanism used politically, socially, even religiously, to take the consensus of the public and move it 2 steps forward to an ultimate agenda, and then ease it back a half step or a step. And a good example would be the airline industry. You know, first we had to
90 seconds.
Our belts, and then we had to take off our shoes, and then we had to start walking through the Incredible Hulk naked scanners. And that's a very good example of the Overton window. If they wanted truly safe flying, they could just electronically cuff everybody to their chair in flight, but the airline industry would die immediately. So they do this in a very incremental manner, and the term that is often used is Overton window.
60 seconds.
And caller,
Overton.
Right, caller. Unfortunately, we've reached the conclusion of our program, but I've got to tell every listener, and thank you for bringing that Overton window up. If you really want to get an education as to what is being planned, what has been planned, do some research for your homework assignment on the Overton window. Not necessarily the fictionalized version from Glenn Beck, although that can be used as an ancillary book. However, the Overton window, what it stands for, and what it represents. What a great call, my friend. What a great call. I want to thank you for really taking us out tonight on this program.
God bless you both, and I will come back in midweek next week with an update on that police issue I described earlier this week.
Very good. We'll be looking forward to it.
I want to thank each and every one of you
God bless you both.
God bless you.
God bless you. I want to thank each and every one of you for listening tonight. We will see you tomorrow at the same time. Or
No,
wait,
no, 9
not
o'clock.
at the
9
same
o'clock.
time. 9 o'clock with V and Steve Quayle. Do not want to miss that one. God bless each and every one of you. Stay safe till then.